Hey everyone, welcome back to Caesar's Freedomstead. Today, I want to show you all how to grow huge, delicious, amazing kale and leafy greens. They're pretty much all going to be the same exact process here. Lettuce, kale, pretty much anything you want to do leafy green. But we're mainly going to hit on the kale here because it is booming. Okay, so as you all have been watching my prior videos, if you haven't, go ahead and check them out in the video section about growing Swiss chard and growing tomatoes, all kinds of different things back there. These kale are going to hit a lot of the same growing features as all your leafy greens and for the Swiss chard that I just made a video for. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through a couple things here with the kale. As in, growing conditions, placement, and how to get them really large. All right, now for maximum growth, what you want to do, unless you're inside of a region of the world or the country, United States, wherever that is cold most of the year, you're going to grow things a little bit differently there. You want to keep them in full sun all day. But in a normal climate where it's about half and half throughout the year, or like here in Florida where it's hot most of the year, you want to go ahead and give your kale or your leafy greens in general half the day in the shade. They just don't want that much sun. Trust me. You have a lot of things going, people teaching things to be in the sunlight all day, which is good, for certain areas, like I said, of the world. But if you want to get really large, great tasting, proliferative leafy greens, give them half shade during the day. And it's always great to put it next to a large sun-loving plant like tomatoes. So the tomatoes right here are going to block out the sun at one portion of the day and give these things complete shade for that portion of the day, while the tomatoes are getting plenty of sunlight, which they love to get all day. Now, let's go ahead and go through the dirt and the placing for these. All right. So those of you who've seen my last video with the Swiss chard back there, look at it, it's already growing huge again. I just cut it a couple days ago. This is going to be kind of similar. Now, you see how the placement is with the kale here. It's all really, really close together. There's one enormous plant right here, and I'll point out that this plant right here gets the most shade of the day. These ones get most of the most sun of the day. A little bit smaller, but if you guys were here in person, you'd see that these are still pretty huge. They're still really large kale, but this is just absolutely enormous. This gets the most shade of the day. It'll get half the day in sunlight, get half the day in the shade. But see the placement as well. I got a little one over here, which it was kind of unfortunate because this one's not really getting much sun or any at all. Because this enormous one is kind of taken over. So there's a little one down there, but the placement is about 3 inches. Look under here. Here's another one. It's got a couple big ones kind of poking out, but again, this one got so large that it's kind of blocking it for anything else getting sunlight. So I'm going to kind of move those leaves around so they could get a little bit. May not matter because I'm going to cut a bunch of this today. So we're just going to cut a bunch. It might help with these other ones getting sunlight. Here's another plant, and under here is another plant coming up. So these are placed about 3 inches apart. So they're very close together, just like the Swiss chard are very close together. You could plant your leafy greens very close together, and that goes the same for lettuce, spinach. You can put them all really close together, and they're very fast growers as well. So you want to go ahead and place them about 3 inches apart. And if you can have an area, which, to be honest, next time I'm going to plant everything on just a row, this back row here, that are my leafy greens. See, it's kind of a learning experience for us as well, because this back row right here always gets half sun, half shade. And so everything's going to be that large. All the leafy greens will get the size of that plant. Now, let's go into dirt and watering. Now if you see underneath all these plants here, we got our nice dirt down here. Now, we have this topsoil, but also underneath that, if you haven't seen my video about growing the best way to grow tomatoes, check that out because I'm going to repeat some things. Underneath all this soil is about a foot of compost material. This is about 3 feet tall, a little bit over 3 feet. And so about this much is compost. There's only about a foot or two of actual topsoil. So everything's feeding off the compost material that's down there. So it's getting plenty of nutrients all day long. And it's being currently broken down. There's a lot of organic matter in there that's still being broken down. So I'll go give you a quick look here. We'll go over this other stuff in the video. These are the cucumbers. In here are some green beans, green bean plants, potatoes. There's another tomato over there, potatoes. Everything is booming in here. Look at this. Now you see my placement here, going back to placement again. See this side's getting mostly sun, and the tomatoes, we're in the morning right now, we're in the morning time frame. The sun is starting to get over here to the tomatoes, but it's still blocking the sunlight here. So these still are getting a nice good shade in the morning. Now once about mid-afternoon, about early afternoon we'll say about noon, we'll just throw out that. About noon, these will start getting their sun, and they'll get sun all the way until probably about 5 o'clock. And then the tomatoes will be blocking out the rest of the sun for that evening. So they'll get about 5, maybe 5.5 hours of pure sunlight beating on them. But everything else over here, sun lovers. Now also with the soil, this is presently breaking down compost. I have tomato leaves down here. Got certain flowers in here, grass clippings, and lots of food scraps from the kitchen are underneath there as well. So everything you can imagine we stick down there, and everything is just loving it. This is crazy. Now if you want a super nutritious kale, and for it to be large at the same time, along with the topsoil and the compost material down there, it's going to get lots of nutrients. But I also like to give it once a week a liquid feed that gives it nitrogen and calcium, everything that these plants need. And that kind of like puts the cherry on top. You know, it gives it that extra little bit to make it that much better and grow that much larger. But I only do it maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, because primarily the dirt and the compost inside of the raised bed here is giving it plenty. I just like to give it a little bit extra. And so with the kale, if you wanted to get it this big, you give it all that. You give it half shade, and you got to let it grow a little bit. You could go ahead and cut it every once in a while to keep it stimulated. I haven't cut this yet, so it's getting enormous. But today, I'm going to cut. We need to go ahead and cut this kale right here because I want to start cooking it. It's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and start cutting it. Okay, I got my 2 helpers here. They're going to help me with the kale. We're going to go ahead and start clipping this, and I want to show you just how large this kale is. Look at that.
See? There's a lot. That one.
Look at how huge those kales are.
These are kale.
Here's more.
That one. When that roll with it's a white boy. That one. Like the X.
Here you go.
See? Like that.
Okay, here's some more. Look at how big these are.
Yeah,
They're huge. Now this is a certain type of variety. I got this at a local farmer's market here. But you know, it'll work for every single kale variety. Okay, here's some more. There you go.
Thanks.
All right, let's get you this one here.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now we'll clip from this There's another kale variety right here. This one's more thick at the top. This is still really big. Here you go. All right. Now these right here got a little bit of yellowing on them. You can just cut that off. It's not a big deal. Still edible. Just gotta get rid of that.
I am crying.
Okay, there's some more.
Why are you not flying, Daddy?
Huh?
Why am I not flying?
Oh, because kale isn't very good wings. Okay, here's some more. You want some more?
Yeah. Dad, you did too much of it. You a bunch of them.
Now you're probably wondering why I'm cutting so much. It's okay. Now for those of you who haven't cut kale before, when you put it in a pan, you cook it, you could put a lot of kale in the pan and it shrinks and loses a lot of liquid if you cook it too quickly. So actually this much kale will be good for maybe just a couple nights or maybe like two meals, because it does shrink quite a bit when you cook it.
And it also looks like a tree.
Yeah. Bless you.
Thank you, Daddy.
Okay. There's some more. Okay. Now we're cutting a lot because it is very good to trim it. You don't want to trim these top ones right here. These babies here, you let them keep on growing.
It's good to give them water and sun.
Yeah.
But they're still in the shade. Those things are getting big for my hands.
Okay, just here's some more.
And it's like a fan too.
Yeah. Okay. Got some tiny ones. Cut some of them tiny ones off the bottom. It's going to stimulate all that growth. So I guess that moves into our next topic, is to go ahead and stimulate that growth, which is to trim it. Get those big ones cut. And the ones that are kind of hanging off on the sides or, you know, kind of in the dirt a little bit, cut those too, because those are going to stimulate more growth.
Shake, 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 shake,
Okay.
shake, shake.
Okay. Almost done.
Dad, you're filling my attention.
Yeah, okay.
How much is it, Daddy?
That's a lot.
Why are
Okay.
those on the ground?
Those just need to be clipped.
Here, Daddy, I need to finish my...
Okay, hold on. Let's show everybody first. All right, now that's all the kale we're going to cut today. It's quite a bit. There's a lot of kale there, but now that we clipped them, it's going to go ahead and spur a lot of growth inside of the plant. Okay, well that's about it. Kale isn't very difficult to grow. Unless you keep it in the sun all day, it may not get this big. They're very nutritious. They're not bitter. If you don't give it any sunlight, they're going to become bitter. So you do have to give it that half day of sunlight for all that delicious juiciness and vitamins and nutrients come out of these. Nice little fun fact. Very high in vitamin K. A lot of your leafy greens are. Swiss chard, spinach, but your kale is very high in vitamin K. You want to get some of that in your diet. Helps with clotting. You want to have too much though. Don't have too much. But it's a really, really great vegetable to have. Very nutritious. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe. Hope I earned your subscription today. If there's other videos you want to see me do, if you've looked inside of our raised bed there and you saw something you wanted me to talk about, like the cucumbers or green beans, things like that, potatoes, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. I'll go ahead and do a video. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.